0. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to today's Operational Services Committee meeting. It is September 3rd, 2024. I'm your chair, Councillor Chris Thiessen, and I'm joined today with committee members Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Clayton. We'll call this meeting to order, and I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I would like to move committee adopt the agenda as presented.
Awesome. That motion's in order. We'll call to question.
Councillor Blackmore in favor.
And that motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll zip right over to item 4 in camera, 4.1, and I'll look for a motion to go on camera. Councillor Blackmore.
So moved.
Thank you very much. I'll call the question.
Councillor Blackmore in favor.
And so it goes. We'll just take a few minutes to shut her down, and we'll Questions back at home? We are back for the Operational Services Committee meeting, and we'll move right into Section 5 reports and the service area update, and I'll turn it over to Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. We'll start off with facilities and energy. Today was the beginning of the aquatic shutdown at Eastlink Center, which will run from September 3rd until September 27th. As well, at the Design Works Center, the sidewalk remediation project is underway and is estimated to be complete by the end of September. In transit, continued positive news on the ridership side. We're about 55% higher overall year to date versus 24 to 23, and the highest ridership ever for August at just under 59,000. The on-demand system continues to grow in ridership as well. It's arguably nearing capacity right now, so we're continuing to monitor that trend to see what that looks like as we progress into fall. It's specifically on the capacity side, it's more so the late night period. In transportation, for Experienced GP, completed some additional beautification work downtown with street and sidewalk cleaning, as well as traffic and transit detours in preparation for the event. And in Parks and Environment, we have completed the playground replacements for the year and are currently planting trees in a few locations, and we'll be starting the Urban Forest Capital project here later this month. With that, I'll take any questions.
Oh, I love that last little sentence there. Thank you so much, Chief Glavin. I have members all around our committee have put their hand up. So I'll start with Councillor Berg, move to Blackmore, and then on to Mayor Clayton.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. Question for Mr. Glavin. You'd mentioned downtown cleaning and et cetera. It sparked a question around tree replacement. I know that we had some trees out there. They left, but I understand that more trees are on their way.
Chief Glavin.
Yes, thank you, Chair Thiessen. The trees that were initially delivered downtown, I believe there was some concern over potential disease in some of the trees. But yes, there will be trees brought back on site, I believe, before the end of the year for planting.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I have two questions. The first is, I'm seeing signage in Muskogee Park Trails of the federal government $1.1 million reconstruction. Can you tell us what's going to take place there and when it's going to start and finish?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. We do have a few locations that we're doing complete rehabilitation of trails. I would have to get details on exactly when it's going to start. We had some that were going to start late August and run through late September, but I don't know the status of all of them. That's something I could email out.
Is part of that the connection to the county trails south into the dunes? Or did we do that already?
Chief Glavin.
There was a project in the county that I believe we contributed to that went from the landfill down to the correction line that connected into that. I think that was largely completed last year with a bit of additional work this year, but that was a project managed by the county, so I don't know for sure if that's completed.
Yeah, that's fine. And then the other question I have is about trees. Who is planting the trees in the downtown, and will they be well watered in before freeze up?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. It would be a subcontractor from Wapiti on that one. I don't know who their subcontractor is for that at the moment, but the site is irrigated, so there should not be an issue with watering. Because there are new trees going in, if they're not well watered before freeze up so that they have ample water in the spring, we're going to lose a bunch more trees. So my recommendation is that we ask parks to ensure the trees are well watered in before freeze up or at freeze up point.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Councillor Blackmore, and very observant as well. I know we've lost a few of the trees along the downtown corridor, and I know our Parks Department, when they do the GP Grows tours, they show people how to properly plant those tree roots and how to spread out the bulbs. Sometimes I feel like that may not be happening if they're just getting planted in place. So I like that suggestion. Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. Mayor Clayton.
Chief Glavin. First one, there used to be a photo radar, let's call it not a photo radar, a traffic speed sign on 99th when you're at Bear Creek. That lamppost had been hit and the sign hasn't been replaced. And I'm just wondering if there's a plan to replace that. So when you're traveling east on 99th, just about when you go over the Bear Creek corridor there. And second, there also, if I recall correctly, was a light standard or light near where the hole was of the Park Hotel. And I noticed driving by last night that it's missing. And I'm hoping and assuming that will get replaced. Thanks.
Thanks for that, Mayor Clayton. Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I'll get an answer on the traffic speed sign on 99th Avenue. I do recall that as well being removed because it was inoperable. Not sure when it'll come back, but I will find out. And
just an email to council would be great.
Same as the light standard as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chief Glavin. Just a follow-up question on that. When incidents such as what happened with the light standard and the electronic speed monitoring system happen, is that recoverable through insurance?
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Yes, I believe we do submit to the insurance companies for those types of damages, similar to an intersection, and I believe there's also some on the protective services side as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I guess we'll move on and down to our agenda through into item 5.2, extended producer responsibility update, and I'll turn it over back to Chief Glavin to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So with extended producer responsibility, this is something that we had brought back before committee in June. There's been some recent date changes, which has prompted us to come back sooner than we initially intended on a recommendation for the model. Initially, we weren't planning to be back until the end of October. Now, with a recent date change, that date was pushed up to September 16th. So we do need to have this discussion with committee and council for a recommendation and a decision point. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Coulter. She has a detailed presentation to go over all the specifics.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Chief Glavin, and welcome, Ms. Coulter. We look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. Good morning. So today I'm bringing forward a report on extended producer responsibility, known as EPR. As Chief Glavin had mentioned, administration did present on this topic to committee in June. So I'll start with a quick recap on what EPR is and the previously provided timelines. So EPR is legislation that has been recently adopted in Alberta that shifts the physical and financial burden of residential recycling away from municipalities and instead to the producers. Producers are represented by a producer responsibility organization known as a PRO. In Alberta, Circular Materials is the only PRO for single-use products, packaging, and paper, so your blue bag items that are typically picked up through curbside recycling. The original dates that administration had identified are shown on the table on the right on the slide. So throughout the summer, there has been an ongoing education campaign for recycling and EPR on the city's social media pages, as well as an information page on the Engage GP platform. It was planned to launch a public engagement survey in September with a report back to committee in October summarizing the public engagement results and presenting a model recommendation. A council decision point for which model the city would move forward with was required by the end of October, followed by updating bylaw C 1365 as applicable, and with an EPR launch date of April 1st, 2025. In the last 2 weeks, Circular Materials announced revised deadlines for communities to finalize their opt-in or opt-out decision by September 16th, far ahead of the previously provided deadline of October 31st. Any community that wishes to change from an opt-in model to an opt-out model after September 16th will have their program participation deferred until the second intake of the program, which is October 2026. There is a deadline of October 31st for opt-in communities to attain council approval on agreements, and then a deadline of November 30th for contracts to be finalized. Unfortunately, the revised deadline of September 16th does not allow for administration to complete the public engagement survey as previously planned. So I'll run through the various EPR models that are available to the city. You will notice that the model names have changed since administration presented in June. The first model option is an opt-in model, with Aquaterra continuing to manage the recycling programs in the city at the existing service levels, so a weekly curbside collection. Aquaterra would be required to enter into a contract with Circular Materials for this work and would receive compensation through the program on a cost per stop basis. Administration is expecting to receive the financial compensation offer from Circular Materials by the end of September, so we do not know the exact impact on the residents' billing that this model will have, but we are anticipating that residents will see a 30 to 50% reduction in recycling charges. If Aquaterra were unable to negotiate a contract within the timelines provided by Circular Materials, the city's participation to the program may be deferred to the second intake. The second model option is the opt-out service model. In this model, Circular Materials would assume all responsibility for single-use products, packaging, and paper products, so blue bag recycling, within the city. In this model, residents would likely see an elimination of recycling fees. Currently, Circular Materials has indicated they plan to maintain the existing curbside service levels, so weekly collection, but it is most likely that in time this will be transitioned to a bi-weekly collection schedule, which is the legislated minimum. Under this model, the city would have no influence over the recycling program, and Aquaterra would experience some financial impacts. There are alternative models that council could consider. The first option would be to choose the opt-in model and manage the recycling program with city resources. This would require the city to enter into agreements with Circular Materials, and we would receive the compensation for the program. Currently, the city has no staff expertise in recycling operations, as well as it's unknown if the compensation received from Circular Materials will fully cover the recycling program costs. Any shortfall in funding to run the program may be required to be subsidized by the city or billed back to residents. Procurement for recycling service provider would need to be completed in a timely manner to meet the program deadline or the program start date of April 1st. Lastly, council could defer program participation to the second intake of the program, which is October 2026. By this time, the program will be better established without all of the current unknowns, but there is potential for negative resident perception if they continue billing for recycling while their communities are not required to pay at this time. At this time, administration is recommending that council choose the opt-in service model with Aquaterra managing recycling, and direct administration to negotiate service contracts with Aquaterra to continue providing recycling services in the city, as well as direct administration to bring a report to the appropriate standing committee in April 2026, providing an evaluation of the performance of the EPR program within the city. So this concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter. Appreciate the presentation and the options. I do have one member from committee in queue currently. That would be Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. Ms. Coulter, we've referred to the Circular Materials entity quite a bit. Can you describe what Circular Materials is or who they are and where they generate their revenue from? So if it's not coming from recycling fees and it's producer paid, can you describe who the producers are?
Through the chair. So Circular Materials is a not-for-profit organization in the province and across Canada that represent producers of recyclable goods in Canada. So examples of producers would be magazines, newspapers, packaging companies, Costco's, Walmart's, and other large-scale companies. So anyone that is generating waste product that can be recycled would be paying into this legislation, and majority of producers go through Circular Materials.
Okay, and then one more, if I may.
You may.
Thank you. So all along, I've struggled to understand a little bit of the concept, and you've answered a lot of the questions there. So is this or a similar program already exists? So if we adopt this, we're not testing something unproven?
Through the chair. EPR legislation is already in place in various provinces across Alberta. This isn't new legislation. It's been in place in Ontario. It's in place in, I believe, New Brunswick. It's in place in BC. So it is something that is well established. It's just new to our province.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for those questions, Councillor Berg. I have Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Ms. Coulter, can you tell me what will happen if we choose to support your recommendation and Aquaterra is unable to come to an agreement with Circular Materials? What happens after that?
Ms. Coulter.
Through the chair, the most likely scenario is that our program participation would be deferred until October 2026. Some administration would negotiate for recycling to continue with Aquaterra until that time when we could relook at our participation in the EPR program.
Would it be possible, or do you have any idea if it's possible, should Aquaterra not reach an agreement, if we can go to the direct delivery model with Circular Materials?
Ms. Coulter.
Through the chair, that is where that September 16th deadline comes into play. If we want to go to a direct model where Circular Material provides recycling services, we need to let them know prior to September 16th. If we make that decision after that date, we would be deferred to October 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the question and answer. I have Chief Glavin in the queue.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Thiessen. Just to add to Ms. Coulter, in the event that we couldn't come to terms with them, I think we would, if there was desire to look at a different model, we would continue to do that, and we would reach out to Circular Materials and see if there was any way to negotiate. But as she did say, we are currently have to indicate by September 16th.
So, yeah, sometimes in life you have to make quick decisions, and you're put on the spot. So I have a couple questions here, just between both models, both the opt-in Aquaterra Manage and the opt-out Pro Manage. So I'll start with the opt-in Aquaterra Manage. So one of the risks that is in the table that was put out was that contamination requirements may result in increased requirements to Aquaterra, which to me seems like the increased requirements means increased costs, which means decreased ROI based off of what they put into it. And when I look at the Environmental Protection Agency, it says that about 25% of all recycled materials have contamination and therefore can't be recycled. So my question in regards to that for the Aquaterra Managed is who eats the cost? Ultimately, I guess the shareholders with Aquaterra, but have there been contamination requirements set where perhaps our pro-managed people have set it out, said, okay, no more than 25%, no more than 30%, or else we have to return it to you at your cost? Has those sort of issues been discussed?
Through the chair. So currently the draft statement of work that's been provided requires a 4% contamination rate. This is very ambitious. No municipality in Alberta achieves this. I believe our current contamination rates are sitting around 13%. At this time, there is no penalty for not achieving that contamination rate, and instead Circular Materials would work with the community, or Aquaterra in this case, to provide additional education and promotion to residents to try and reduce the contamination levels.
Awesome. That was an impressive answer, even more impressive considering the question and how long it was. So thank you, Ms. Coulter. My other question is in regards to the tonnages set on the Pro Manage. So it says if tonnages are not adequate to support existing services levels, Circular Materials may elect to reduce collection to a biweekly service. So that's that biweekly service. But have they intimated how much tonnage they anticipate or hope to collect in order to keep it a weekly service?
Through the chair. At this time, nothing has been indicated. Given Circular Materials is a not-for-profit organization representing the producers, it is most likely that they will try to keep services at the minimum legislated value just to keep it affordable for the producers that they represent. So it will most likely eventually transition to a biweekly service.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. I'm looking around for other questions. If there are none, I have one more. So currently, Aquaterra, through the Eco Center, they take electronic goods, batteries, styrofoam, stuff that isn't traditionally recycled. On either option, would Aquaterra continue to provide those services to our community?
Through the chair, if we choose the opt-in model with Aquaterra providing recycling services, all of the existing services would remain status quo. So all of our stewardship items like batteries, tires, paints would continue to be accepted at the Eco Center. If we were to choose the opt-out model, Circular Materials would be managing the depot. EPR does not consider stewardship items or styrofoam, so it is likely that the city would have to either find somewhere and run that program themselves or eliminate those stewardship items.
Okay, no, that's really good to know. Thank you very much for that. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Ms. Coulter, can you tell me approximately a scan or a lay of the land across the province in regards to other mid-sized cities? Who is getting recycle pickup every week and who's getting it every two weeks? Is it common? Are we very fortunate to have it every week in Grande Prairie? What does it look like across the rest of the province?
Ms. Coulter.
Through the chair, I myself haven't done a thorough jurisdictional scan on who receives weekly and bi-weekly. The municipalities that I have seen for the most part are receiving weekly service. So I don't think we're uncommon in the service level that we provide.
Perfect, thank you.
Very good. I'll look around. I see no other hands shooting up. I got Councillor Blackmore.
I'd be prepared to do business.
I think we are ready for business. Looks like we're questioned out at the moment, so take it away.
I would move that committee recommend council choose the opt-in service model and direct administration to negotiate service contracts with Aquaterra to continue providing recycling services in the city, and number 2, direct administration to bring a report to the appropriate standing committee in April 2026, providing an evaluation of the performance of the EPR program within the city. And speaking to this motion, well, I do have mixed feelings about the way our service will end up being laid out in the city of Grande Prairie. I feel that this is a kind of an in-between step to what I see coming in the future, which is EPR legislation is here and it's not going away. And so I see no point in deferring until October 2026. On the other hand, there's a lot of uncertainty about how that service would be laid out in Grande Prairie if we were to go direct to Circular Materials. And so I think that using Aquaterra as that intermediate step until we understand more about the service and the costs involved is a good approach. I also feel that this motion is somewhat dependent on what happens with our other partners with Aquaterra. And while we can pass this motion here today, it may change before the 16th. But there's a lot of unknowns, and so I hope Council will support the motion so that we can work through those unknowns in a responsible manner.
Great, thanks for that motion and those comments, Councillor Blackmore. I'll turn it over to committee for any discussion or debate on the motion presented. Seeing none, I'll call to question to send this to Council. My apologies, I'm on low power mode, so I keep having to log in again. And that motion carries. We'll see that next Monday at our council meeting. Moving right along, I'll turn it back over to Chief Glavin for our outstanding items list.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. No updates are necessary at this time, but I will give a little context on the 2 items that were requested at the last meeting or at Council on the 26th, that we will try to ensure that we have at minimum kind of an order of magnitude estimate in front of Council before budget, if Council wanted to include anything in a capital budget for next year for items 1330 and 1331.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Chief Glavin. I'll turn it over to Councillor Burke.
Yeah, just to do business on outstanding items, if you may. Okay. I would like to move committee receive the September 3rd outstanding items list as presented for information.
All right, that motion is in order. We'll call this to question. And that motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all for committee meetings today. Thanks for sticking it out for all of our committee meetings. We look forward to seeing you out in the public soon. Thank you very much. This meeting adjourned.